I'm here to encourage people to take a hard look at Gary Trauner and at his opponent, and encourage them to cast their vote for Gary Trauner for our next congressman. You know, as all of you know, I don't do a lot of endorsements, and I take some criticism for that. But I will tell you, I've watched Gary over the last 4 years now as he has traveled this state and has made a Herculean effort to try to meet people, to understand this state, and try to represent it. I contrast that with what I consider to be politics as usual from his opponent. If you watch the ads, in fact, I was just asking him, what's this gun business about? I watched the ad the other night about the registry, because there ain't no way I'm endorsing somebody who wants a gun registry. And it turns out that, in fact, you can go to his website and you can discover that it's not true, and in fact, he got an A- from the NRA. With regard to what Gary brings, Gary spent a lot of time traveling the state, still campaigns, is out going door to door, trying to figure out what it is that works for Wyoming and what kind of message needs to be delivered in Washington, D.C. And if you listen to him, a lot of his focus is on what I believe is a really difficult problem right now, which is this question of the economy. We are relatively secure in Wyoming right now, but those winds of change in the economy are finding their way to this state. We need a spokesperson in Washington who can talk about rural economies, can talk about states that are commodity states, that are energy states, and it will carry that message not just on the floor of the House, but in the caucus of what is clearly going to be the majority party. There exists in Washington a pretty strong set of people in Congress, Congressman Boucher and some of the others who are from commodity states and coal-producing states inside the Democratic caucus. We need to have a Wyoming voice that speaks up on behalf of who we are and what this state needs and what it can best benefit from going forward. And I think Gary Trauner is a person to do that. And Gary's been all over this state. He has worked hard. He's knocked on the doors. He's had the same experience I had, where people throw their brochure back and say, there ain't any way I'm ever voting for a Democrat. But it turns out that it works for the state. It works for us to approach these races and say, who's devoting the energy to go out and talk to people? Who's showing up at the forums? Who's showing up at the events that make sure that they're communicating with the citizens? And I will tell you, somebody won't be any different as an elected official than they are as a candidate. One of the things that I get criticized for is that I travel too much around the state. I did the same thing when I was a candidate, and I intend to do that while I'm in office, because the pattern that you set as a candidate is the pattern you're going to see when they're in office. And Gary set a pattern that says he's accessible, he responds to people's inquiries about information, works hard to try to reflect what is best in this state. And I believe we have a chance to send somebody to Congress who represents the kind of politics that this country needs going forward. The other choice is to endorse the kind of politics that represents what we've been doing in this country for a long time. And if there's anything that needs to change, it is fundamentally how we do business, and we've got to do business differently if we want America to be different 10 years from now for our children and for our grandchildren. With that, I'll be glad to take questions, and I encourage again people to take a serious look at this race, a serious look at the decision we're going to make about who will be our lone voice in the United States Congress. Thank you. Got any questions?